Hello, my name is Corey Recco. I'm the author of books and articles for magazines, websites, and historical journals. This tintype is said to show Jesse James and his killer, Robert Ford. It was brought to public attention by Sandy Mills, who inherited the photo from her grandmother and hoped to sell it. Mills says her grandmother used to tell stories about how the family would harbor the James gang in their Missouri farmhouse. While there is no evidence to confirm this story, and Mills's grandmother was not alive at the same time as Jesse James, and therefore could have no first-hand knowledge of it, there is a family connection between Mills and James. Follow along. Mills's great-great-grandmother's first husband, not the husband she had Mills's great-grandmother with, was married to Robert Stevenson. The grandchild of the brother of Stevenson's mother married Jesse James's brother Frank. And that's it. So while this loose connection leaves open the slight possibility that a photo of Jesse James could have passed down through the family to Mills, more proof would obviously be needed to say the men in the photo are Jesse James and Robert Ford. When the tintype began making news in 2015, Mills claimed her grandmother had told her about the photo, quote, "This is Jesse James and the coward Robert Ford." However, casting some doubt on this claim is a 2013 email Mills sent to Eric James of the James family. Hoping to get Eric James behind her claim, she sent him an email which began, "I have a tintype photo of Jesse James sitting with another man. We think it is a first cousin, Robert Woodson Height." So we have no paperwork or contemporary documentation telling us who is shown in this tintype. We only have Mills's ever-changing word. And even if Mills's grandmother did identify the one man as Jesse James, she never knew James. So again, more proof is needed to tell us who is in this tintype. So why did this photo make news? It's because Mills sent a scan of the image to Lois Gibson, who works as a forensic artist, a fancy way of saying sketch artist, for the Houston Police Department. Gibson studied the image and concluded that it did in fact show Jesse James and Robert Ford. To quote Gibson, "I am positive this tintype is of none other than Jesse James sitting next to Robert Ford." How did Gibson reach this conclusion? We look at page 1 of the report and see she compared the alleged Jesse James to a known image of Jesse James and noted several facial similarities. We move on to page 2, and this is where it gets interesting. She compared the alleged James to a photo she labeled as historically accepted group shot of Jesse James and cohorts. And again, noted many similarities between the alleged Jesse James and the man that she has identified as James in this photo. There's just one problem. This is a well-known photo of the Texas Rangers, and the man identified as James is actually Alonzo Van Oden, known as Lon Oden. So Gibson, who replied to earlier criticism of her work on this photo by saying, "I know faces inside and out, and I worked exhaustively on this. I am positive it's Jesse James," compared the alleged James to a known photo of Jesse James and a known photo of Lon Oden, and concluded that both were the person in this tintype. I could go on to Gibson's comparison of the alleged Jesse James to other unknown men. But what's the point? I think her positively declaring that the man in the tintype is both a match for Jesse James and Lon Oden tells us all we need to know about Gibson's ability to identify people in photographs. Obviously, we can't count her word as proof of anything, except maybe her incompetence. Taking away Gibson's work as evidence of anything, and all we're left with is the word of Sandy Mills, who in 2013 said this was a tintype showing Jesse James and Robert Woodson Height, and in 2015 said it was a tintype showing Jesse James and Robert Ford. It's unfortunate that the Burley Auction Gallery in New Braunfels, Texas, did not take a more critical look at this image. Instead, they listed it as an authenticated tintype showing Jesse James and Robert Ford. It sold to some sucker for $35,000. For more information about me, please visit my website, www.coreyrecco.com.